afternoon. It's Adel Stan with Alternet.org reporting for Free Speech TD from the Take Back the American Dream Conference in Washington, D.C. And I'm here with Katrina vanden Heuvel, the editor and publisher of The Nation magazine and its fabulous website. It's great to see you here.
Thank you, Adele.
And you've got a big plenary panel coming up right about now.
Trying not to think of it as big. The topic is big. Challenging the mainstream media to tell the truth.
And these days when we're seeing that the Wall Street protests were having a hard time getting a little coverage for a while.
They were. They're breaking through a little now, but even then, I'm surprised that there's still scorn, there's snark, there's a little bit of contempt.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that the mainstream media attention to the Occupy Wall Street will also be a spark to give coverage to the many protests and demonstrations around this country that have been going on in quieter ways with so little press attention, shamefully little. And to give a sense that there is motion out there, and there are people in motion, and not just tell Americans that the only movement in town is the Tea Party.
Well, speaking of that, we have the cover of The Nation magazine, and you have an article in here with Robert Borisage of the Campaign for America's Future, and that is about building a movement.
It is.
And you're talking about building a movement not just through standard organizing, but through storytelling. So
storytelling is so critical. Storytelling with heroes, with narratives, and with villains. Easier to find villains, but no, it's easy. One can find hero citizens, and I think part of the role for the independent media is to give more attention to those citizen heroes who are doing the work to change this country. Of course, the villains are important too, because it is exposing the rapaciousness of Wall Street and the inequality that is, I think, the top political story of our time, and underlies the gathering here and on Wall Street, a sense that things have gone wrong in this country, and how do we restore some measure of fairness?
Now, would you say that liberal and progressive media also have a role in what that should be leveraged in some kind of way to also elevate those messages into mainstream media? I mean, it seems to me that the right wing has done a very good job in doing that.
And I think we've made some inroads, but we need to create our own infrastructure in very strong ways, and also at the same time leverage our story into the mainstream. And what is the mainstream? In many ways, it's a very murky term these days. Is Huffington Post,
Right.
/ AOL? There are inroads. Barbara Ehrenreich has a great piece on the rich, and please, are they victims, in the Washington Post yesterday. I write a weekly column for the WashingtonPost.com, but it's that critical mass, that voice, sustained, of storytelling that is still not resetting a narrative that remains too much the inside the Beltway consensus.
Well, you are one of the very few progressives we get to see in mainstream media, and Americans throughout the political spectrum know your face and know your voice.
We need more. I was pleased, obviously Robert Reich, who was speaking here earlier, he's on quite a bit, but we need more voices. Too often the debates we see on those shows, the Sunday shows, or as Calvin Trillin, who writes for us, used to call Sabbath gas bags, we need more, we need the range there, and not just once every 3 weeks, and not just 7 people, but a consistent critical voice.
And the Nation has been quite consistent in representing the range of the progressive coalition. I mean, you have a lot of women writing for you, you have people of color, you have great public intellectuals, you have labor folks. John Nichols is a very strong voice for labor.
I'm very proud. We, I think, have the feistiest passel of women columnists, from Kathy Pollitt, Patricia Williams, Melissa Harris Perry, Naomi Klein. And then we also have labor coverage, John Nichols, Spirit of Wisconsin. Think about how important that is, because labor coverage barely exists anymore in the mainstream. But yeah, so we have a range, and the range of views. I mean, we have a range of views. Some people think President Obama isn't the leader he should be because of structural obstacles, the money in our system. Others fault his style of leadership, and yet others go much deeper and just think, in many ways the Democratic Party needs to be reset in fundamental ways. So I think a range of views is critical, but also, you mentioned it, I mean, Chris Hayes, our former Washington editor, talk about leveraging a message into the mainstream. He's just been given a weekend show on MSNBC. So there are many entry points, but it's that wider field.
Well, how should we approach community building? I mean, we have all these new technologies.
Yeah.
We have a progressive media that is now very much emboldened by these technologies. Do you think we're where we need to be with building community using these, using our media and using our new technologies?
The beginning is near. We've seen the very beginning, and it's exciting, and I think that the liberal, progressive, left community has done some strong things, but it's going to take some steps to really build a broader community and to coordinate more effectively across all these platforms, and to do it from the true bottom up, in local communities, into states, into the country, and I would argue internationally. I mean, there's a reason Occupy Wall Street takes a spark from Tahrir Square. Different. But there are many ideas and many movements around the world. U.S. Uncut was inspired by a piece in The Nation on UK Uncut. So find those models and build transnational solidarity, I think could leverage a really big community.
Well, Katrina vanden Heuvel, publisher, editor of The Nation, thank you so much for coming by. And I am Adel Stan of alternate.org, reporting for Free Speech TV.